All right, everybody. Today we are going to be working on lesson number 2 in Booklet 2, that is estimating sums and differences. This should be a pretty quick lesson. You already have all of the tools that you need to be successful. For this video, you only need the lesson itself and the homework pages that come after. So if you have those out, let's begin. Now, the premise of this lesson is we are going to be adding and subtracting numbers without a calculator, as we were before, but in order to save time, we're going to round the numbers first. If I scroll down, we can take a look at example C to prove what I'm talking about. You have two 5-digit numbers. It would take you some time to add them, but if we round first, not only can we do the math quickly, but you might even be able to do that math in your head. So let's start at the top of the page. Lesson 2. Lesson 2, estimating sums and differences. In the last lesson, we demonstrated how to sum a list of items, but this takes time. It's faster when estimating sums or differences to round all the numbers you need to add or subtract in advance. So let's start by talking about how we're going to round. Now, the more zeros you have in your number, the faster you'll be able to add or subtract. So in this lesson, when you're rounding, I want you to round the number that is farthest to the left. In this case, that number is going to be 5. As usual, we look to the right of the number that we're rounding in order to decide how we are rounding. The 8 to the right of the 5 tells us to round up. So that 5 becomes a 6, and everything afterwards becomes a 0. In this case, we're rounding up to 60. We're going to try some more examples. I would take a second now if I were you, pause the video, give these next 4 questions a try, and then make sure that your answers match mine. Remember that for each of these questions, you're rounding to the number that is farthest to the left. Let's get started. Example A, we are rounding the 4, so we look to the 3 for help. The 3 tells the 4 to round down, so this becomes 400. Question B, we round the number farthest to the left, that is the 1. We look to the 7 to tell us how to round. The 7 tells the 1 to round up, so this becomes 20.0. Remember, everything after the rounded number becomes 0. Example C, we're rounding the 6. We look to the number to the right for help. Whoops, I accidentally highlighted one too many. The 5 tells the 6 to round up, so this rounds up to 7,000. And finally, question D, we're rounding the 0, the number farthest to the left. Now, that means that we're looking to the 9 to tell us how to round, and the 9 tells the 0 to round up, making this 1 point. I could write 1.000. We don't really need all of those zeros, so I'm just going to erase a couple of them. Now, in the next example, we're going to see how this rounding makes our life easier. I've already taught you in lesson 0 how to subtract 145.7, or we're adding, how to add 145.7 to 360.5. Now, in this lesson, please read carefully because I'm asking you to estimate the following sums and differences by rounding first. So what I want you to do is change the question to 100 plus 400. Why 100 plus 400? because our first number rounds down and our second number is going to round up, as we did earlier in this lesson. Now, when adding these, it's really straightforward. All of our zeros carry down because 0 plus 0 is 0, and 1 plus 4 is 5. Really, in your head, you might not have even needed to write this down because you know 100 plus 400 is 500. Let's take a look at example B. We're estimating this difference, so we're going to round the numbers first. 7,895, we're going to round to the 7. The 7 is going to round up because of the 8, so this is going to become 8,000. 1,234, we're going to round the 1. That 1 is going to round down because of the 2, so this is going to round down to 1,000. We're subtracting here, make sure that you notice that. And 8,000 minus 1,000, you can do that in your head and see that it's 7,000, or you can do it the long way, 0 minus 0, carried on all of the zeros, and 8 minus 1 is 7. Example C. These were the very large numbers. This would take you a bit of time to do by hand. Luckily, we are rounding and estimating. Our first number, 75,895. That 7 is going to round up to an 8 because of the 5 afterwards. So this is going to be 80,000 plus the number on the bottom is going to round down to 30,000. So 80,000 plus 30,000, I'm going to do this one by hand. 0, 0, 0, 0. 8 plus 3 is 11. Now, because that's our last opportunity to add, I don't need to carry the 1. The 11 just comes down. So the answer is going to be roughly 110,000. Question D, we're rounding the numbers farthest left. So our first number, that 7 is going to round up because of the 8. That's going to become 8.000. Again, you don't have to write those zeros, but you can if you want. And we're subtracting our second number where the 1 is going to round down because of the 2. So that's going to be 1.000. Subtract these numbers. 8 minus 1 is 7. And the answer is going to be 7.000, or if you prefer, you can just write 7. That's fine too. 2 more examples. The process is the same. Over here, 7.3 is going to round down to 7.0. Over here, 4.9 is going to round up to 5.0. We're subtracting, and 7 minus 5 is 2. Finally, we have 67,895 plus 45,672. Again, instead of doing it the long way, we're asked to estimate. That saves us a lot of time. Our first number, we're going to round that 6 up to a 7. So that's going to be 7, and everything after becomes a 0. You have to keep these zeros because they're before the decimal. On the bottom, that 4, also going to round up because of the 5. So this is going to become 5, and then everything after is a 0. Since we're adding, the zeros plus zeros all stay the same, and 7 plus 5 gives me 12. So my answer to F is approximately 120,000. And that's about it. It's a quick lesson. The easiest mistake that you're going to make here is you're not going to read the question closely enough to see that it says words like estimate or round. In this unit especially, make sure that you're reading the questions to see if you're solving it the long way, or you can take shortcuts like this if it asks you to estimate. Take a few minutes now and work on the worksheet, which comes after this, Lesson 2, Estimating Sums and Differences worksheet. Thank you.